All right, howdy folks, Rambler here. So we just got finished up with the incredibly slow boil that we did. Now I'm going to try to demonstrate the difference when you actually properly prepare and have a fire in your Kelly kettle. So what I'm using again is these Weber fuel cubes. They're very brittle. They break up very easily into tiny pieces. They work good when things are kind of damp, which it still is here. So right now I have a couple of small pieces of birch bark from the local area, some of this wood, and this napkin that was in my pocket. And I'm gonna use a match. I'm gonna light that little tiny, like, I don't know, 1/10 of a piece of a fuel cube, and we're gonna see how long it takes us. These cheap store matches kind of suck if you've never used them. So as you can see, as soon as you put your kettle on, those flames start shooting out. So you got to be kind of mindful. Because you can burn yourself pretty easily. So there's all different kinds of ways you can light these. You can start a fire first and put the kettle on. You can have the kettle on it and light it. You can light it and then stick the kettle on, which is typically what I like to do. It doesn't really matter. There's no really right or wrong way. It all works. And then you just start dropping in your sticks. You can see here I don't have a whole lot. Some of that pile that was left before that I had gathered up previously. You know, nothing is from a dead standing per se. All of it is from the ground, so there's variable moisture content on it. None of it was, you know, buried in the dirt or anything. So it's not like wet, but it's not super dry either. It's kind of average wood that you would find kind of laying on the ground, maybe, you know, propped up on something a little bit. All right, so I got a decent amount of fuel in there. Now we're just gonna wait. As it starts to burn, I'll push it down a little more and feed it as needed. So this wood isn't super dry, as I was just saying, and the outside of the bark layer is dry, but the inner bark layer is still very wet. Just pulling this apart with my hand, you can feel it. It's very damp. So this would be, I'd say, subpar wood, but easily found wood in any conditions. It's the, you know, when you look around, it's all the little twigs on the ground that are all around you. Gonna make a cup of tea. Gonna get that ready while I'm waiting. I like this stuff by Tazao, or however you say it, there's Zen tea. It's a green tea with lemongrass and peppermint. Pretty tasty. Nice thing about wood burner, your paper tea bag, stick it on in. Why not? It'll burn. Now we have some nice heat coming out of here right now. I imagine here very shortly we'll start having flames coming up out the top of the kettle as everything I put in catches. And this is the type of fire that it would work very well to melt snow or to cook something on the top, I mean, because you have those the pot support that comes with the Kelly kettle that drops in right here. I haven't really played around with that too much. I've seen some videos of people using it, and I have a pretty good idea that it'll work good for melting snow. That's next on my list. At first, I just wanted to test out the basic functionality of how it's designed to operate before I go delving into the accessories too much. The only accessory I have that I'm using is the whistle stopper. All right, so I don't know if you can see it with the light, but we have flames coming out the top of the chimney now. So despite the inside bark of the wood, our wood being, slightly damp, as I said, it's rained a lot the last few days, rained all last night. I didn't soak this wood in a bucket like I did in the last video, but it's still somewhat damp. The inside is dry, but the fire has to dry out those outer layers of bark. So that's the only downside to not actually taking, a few minutes and going out and searching out dry, dead standing wood. But it works just fine on this easily acquired stuff that's even a little damp. I'm just kind of dropping these in, almost out of boredom. Doesn't really need it. Once you get a decent little fire going, it'll boil. It's nice on a day like this where it's chilly. Sitting even right here, I can feel the heat coming off on my face. It's nice. If you want to warm your hands up, hold your hands up right here next to it. Get a nice little flame coming out. Yeah, you'll end up smelling a little bit like smoke, but who cares really? I don't. Well, this is what I was saying kind of in the last video. If I really cram this thing full of wood, I can get a boil really fast. What I'm doing now is just trying to get a boil in a reasonable amount of time. So, and when I pull the kettle off, I don't want embers to go everywhere. So I have as much wood as I need in it to burn and get me a boil, but not spill out when I take it off. And you'll see that here in a few minutes. And if you want to make sure wood's not going to spill out, you still think you need to add some fuel, break it down small so it's not going to catch on the side of the fire base or anything. It'll burn little small little chunks the size of, you know, your end of your thumb, just as well as the tall stick. You know, the tall sticks will get you the massive shooting flames, which gets you the really fast boil time. But then you're gonna have stuff falling out of the fire base. Tell you what, it is really hot above this right now. So they warn you about lifting the handle up and taking it off like that, because you can burn your hands. And believe me, you definitely can. Especially if you pause or hesitate for just a second. Now you can definitely tell that this wood is not perfect, because we got a fire going, but it doesn't catch nearly as fast as nice dry pieces. But we should be at a boil almost any moment. Got nice swirling flames in the chimney. Another nice thing is this, after you boil it, you make your drink or whatnot, pull the kettle off, and you get a nice little hand warming fire to sit around if you so choose. I always like boiling the kettle with it full. Some people will just boil, you know, the 2 cups or 1 cup or however much water they need. I usually boil it a full kettle. And that way when I make my drink or I make my meal or meal and drink or whatever, I still have, you know, a couple of cups of water left. And that allows me to put it back on the fire so that the base can have that strong draft and burn out very quickly. And that way I still have water in the kettle and I can do that. If I use all my water and I'm trying to get back on the move quickly, then I can't put my kettle back on to help it burn down even faster. I think we're there, it's just starting to whistle. Yep, there we go. All right, so you grab it 90-degree angle, lift it off, set it down. Now don't push the whistle plug in super tight when you put it on, because then it'll be hard to take out. And if you notice now, when I pulled the kettle off, I didn't have stuff falling all out of my fire base. It's still all contained right there. For whatever reason, this back corner didn't really ever combust too much. All right, so I pour myself a nice 2 cups or so of tea. I'll just lightly put that plug back in there. And this outside doesn't get too terribly hot. You can, I mean, you don't want to hold on to it, you can grab it. So when I put this back on, if you notice, as soon as I put it back on, we get the shooting flames again. I'm just doing this to help it burn down. So you can tell it sounds just like a kettle. The more water you have in it, the more like gurgly it is. But you can pop that off if you don't want to listen to it. Hang it right on the side. So that's it. That's the Kelly Kettle Scout. Boiling with kind of just quickly collected wood from the ground. You know, damp for the most part, not super dry, and it doesn't take too terribly long. It's kind of an enjoyable experience. Thanks for watching. Rambler out.